My name is Gargamuni Das. I was initiated by Srila Prabhupada on October 23rd, 1966, approximately 52 and a half years ago, in New York City at 26 2nd Avenue. My first service for Srila Prabhupada was to clean his bathrooms and do odd jobs around the temple because nobody else stayed at the temple. Everybody had their own apartments. I was the only one who didn't have a job because I was only 18 years old. So I used to do all the odd services, cleaning bathrooms, washing dishes, just like Narada Muni did for the sadhus, who for 4 months he served them in the rainy season. However, my service lasted directly for 11 years with Srila Prabhupada, as long as he was physically present on the planet. Anyway, in 1966, Prabhupada introduced istagosthi at 26 2nd Avenue. This is very important, istagosthi, because it means where like-minded devotees discuss topics of Krishna consciousness. Discussion is very important, as well as Shravanam Kirtanam. After hearing, then you have to discuss or preach. And this is a perfect way of training ourselves how to preach to the public. However, we will discuss intimate subject matters relating to devotional service. First of all, we have to know what is istagosthi. So there's a letter written to Satsvarup in 1968, February 25th. Please accept my blessings. I'm in receipt of a copy of your last istagosthi dated January 27th. And I'm very satisfied with your replies on the questions made in the istagosthi. The meeting is called istagosthi, not istagosthi. So Prabhupada made the pronunciation. Quote, it means he should also make friendship with persons who are on the equal level with himself or who have the same understanding that he does. For a devotee, there is no point in making friendships with ordinary persons. He should make friendship with other devotees so that by discussing amongst themselves, they may elevate one another on the path of spiritual understanding. This is called istagosthi. So now you have the meaning of istagosthi. In Bhagavad Gita, there is reference discussing among themselves. Generally, pure devotees utilize their valuable time in chanting and discussing various activities of Lord Krishna or Lord Chaitanya amongst themselves. This is a quote from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 29th chapter, 17th verse. You can note that down for your own reference. And here are some other meanings in the Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Istagosthi, discussion among friends, spiritual discussions, the discussions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, Rupa and Sanatas and others in his travels to South India. Those are also istagosthi. Goshi refers to a group of persons who have great relish for a wide variety of scriptures, who are endowed with truthful words, who are embellished with faultless ornaments, and who are full of perfect knowledge. Hearing topics related to the Lord from the Bhagavata and other scriptures, they realize the Lord. That's from the Chaitanya Bhagavat Adi Leela 1 6. All the devotees who desire to know may ask their questions to the elderly members, but still they are open to write to me for all their questions. Prabhupada is speaking. I reply each and every letter I receive, but it is better if simple questions are solved amongst yourselves in the istagosthi class. Every one of you must regularly read our books at least twice, in the morning and evening, and automatically all questions will be answered. That's a letter to Ranadir in 1970, January 24th. Then this is another quote from Prabhupada. Amongst the other duties in the renounced order of life of Srila Sanatan, Srila Rupa, and other Goswamis of Vrindavan, the foremost duty is discharged by them was to hold learned discourses amongst themselves at Seva Kunj, Vrindavan, the spot where Radha Damodar temple was established by Srila Jiva Goswami, and where the actual Samadhi tombs of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami are laid. So this is very authorized, this Ishtagoshi, and it was the foremost duty discharged by the Goswamis. So this is nothing to laugh about or to ban. My Ishtagoshi was banned at the temple in Vrindavan for reasons which I do not know and probably will never know. For the benefit of all in human society, they left behind them immense literatures of transcendental importance. Similarly, all the acharyas who voluntarily accepted the renounced order of life aimed at benefiting human society and not living a comfortable or irresponsible life at the cost of others. However, those who cannot give any contribution should not go to the householders for food. For such mendicants asking bread from the householders are an insult to the highest order. Sukadeva Goswami gave this warning, especially for those mendicants who adopt this line of profession to solve their economic problems. Such mendicants are in abundance in this age of Kali. So one should not take sannyas and live off the grihastas as being done now. In fact, a sannyasi can't even have a bank account as instructed by Srila Prabhupada. Only if empowered or instructed by Prabhupada himself. This is in Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 2nd chapter, verse 5. Then in a conversation with Tamal Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, just before coming here, we were in Laguna Beach, and Guru Kripa Maharaj and Yasoda Maharaj and Paramhansa Maharaj and Vishnu Jan Maharaj and myself, we got your new books, Chaitanya Chaitamrita. So we were reading constantly from early in the morning, and we found it was very enlivening, the fact that we were reading amongst a number of devotees. And Prabhupada said, yes, therefore it is called Ishtagoshti, or discussion. Discussion does not take place alone. There must be at least two. So there's two. This is a morning walk in September 1975. So here you get the gist of what Ishtagoshi is, and I hope you are all satisfied with this. Today, on request, I'm going to give you quotes on what Prabhupada said about books. It's books. This is called Books, Life and Soul. So Prabhupada, he is speaking. He's laughing. So similarly, if one is giving very important service, then even there is some faulty thing, excuse. Service is so important. So in the Western countries, the woman can give very good service. This book distribution is the most important task in our society. Number one task. Therefore, I am giving so much stress and I'm working so hard on this because this is my life and soul according to the order of my Guru Maharaj. And by his grace, it is to some extent successful. And I took it seriously. I take it seriously still now. That is my life and soul. I never tried in India to construct big temples, or even in your country, we didn't. I never tried. But I was selling personally books. That is the history. Sometimes they are criticizing what kind of sannyasi he is doing book business. You see? The envious people will criticize Prabhupada because they have no books, because they have no knowledge. Prabhupada has knowledge, therefore he wrote 80 books, plus Back to Godhead. This is a room conversation in 1976 in Bombay. Prabhupada also said that Sri Krishna helped him write and understand the descriptions of the planetary systems in Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna personally came to Prabhupada and helped him to explain these things. So therefore these books are very authorized. Now the books are only understood by a parampara only. This is the next quote. Should I go on? So we should take opportunity. There must be Krishna Sangha to read all these books, to understand all these books. And the correct information from these books can be had by the process that Krishna has recommended. And what is that? Evam parampara pratyam. Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 2nd verse. These literatures should be understood by the parampara system. This is a transcript from a tape from Vrindavan, February 8, 1974. The next one is from a letter. The other professor has remarked that my books will be appreciated by students of consciousness. That is very good. Our books are meant to educate people in consciousness. Very good quote. It is not meant for people who are unconscious or who are conscious of their bodies. It is actually meant to teach us what is consciousness for people who are in consciousness. So this is excellent quote. Prabhupada had a very good way of explaining things properly and understood simply. Books are the Brihat Madanga. That's the next quote. Regarding printing our books and literatures, I may inform you in this connection that I saw one bulletin of Indian Railways in which it was specifically advised that every railway servant should see to it that the wheels of the carriages or vehicles must be moving always, which means that the railway is going nicely. Similarly, all of us should see that our literatures are profusely distributed. That means that our missionary work is going on nicely. Otherwise, we are simply sleeping and eating. The literature we have already designated as Brihat Mridanga. So distribution of literature means great Sankirtan. Not Sankirtan, but great Sankirtan. And this is a letter to Karandar from Nairobi in 1971. Next quote. Prabhupada is speaking. I work at night writing books. My work is going on. At night I write. Yes, while we were sleeping, Prabhupada was working and writing and leaving us these. He didn't write for himself. He wrote for us, his disciples. For everyone who's in the Hare Krishna movement is a disciple of Prabhupada. Not just the ones who are initiated by the so-called gurus, but everyone, even the initiates of the gurus, they are disciples of Prabhupada, because the entire teaching is coming from Srila Prabhupada, which is coming from Krishna. This is in a room conversation with Dr. Inger, UNESCO worker, in Paris, 1973. Prabhupada again is speaking. My point is, I don't wish to keep money in the bank. Invest in printing. Room conversation from New Vrindavan. Prabhupada told me personally, if you keep money in the bank, there will be politics and you will fight. You spend all the money on the books, he said. Then there'll be no fighting, because you'll be too tired from Sankirtan. Yes. So, the next quote. Srila Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports, heavily stamped with his devotion for Krishna. This is spoken by Tamal Krishna. Everybody wants to know where the quote came for 10,000 years, Prabhupada's books. This is the direct quote written by Tamal Krishna, which was spoken to him in the car on the way to morning walk at Chevrolet Hills in Los Angeles. Srila Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports, heavily stamped with his devotion for Krishna, were meant to ensure his followers absolute fidelity. As he would declare in 1975, my books will be the law books for the next 10,000 years. This was spoken to this writer while returning by car from a morning walk at Chevrolet Hills in Los Angeles in July 1975. 10,000 years refers to the belief that the advent of Sri Chaitanya inaugurates a golden age lasting 10,000 years within the normal dark age of Kali. So my books will be the law books for the next 10,000 years. Quote. That's a direct quote. Next. Yes, I want you to give me the facility to write my books, but I can attend some meetings of important people and elites. You have taken the right view of the importance of my books. Books will always remain. That was the view of my Guru Maharaj, and I have also taken it. Therefore, I started my movement with my books, and we shall be able to maintain everything with the sales of the books. The temples will be maintained by book sales, and if there are no more temples, then the books shall remain. 60 years, they could not do any of these books. Prabhupada's talking about his godbrothers. 60 years, they could not do any books, and still they are envious. Within 60 years, they could not attract any foreign student or any book published, and still they are proud. They have got all the blessings of Bhaktisiddhanta. You see? But for 60 years, they couldn't complete Bhaktisiddhanta's message to write books. None of them wrote any commentary on any scripture. Only Prabhupada has written a commentary on the three main scriptures of Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Chaitamrita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. Because writing commentaries, you need brain, and they have no brain. That's why they cannot write commentary. Books are personal. That's the next heading. Regarding your question about instruction, spiritual life is different from material life. The instruction given in my books is supposed to be personal instruction. It's not impersonal, it's personal. You're with Prabhupada. Prabhupada is teaching you in his books personally. When we read the Bhagavad Gita as it is understood we are receiving personal instructions of Krishna. No physical barrier is there in the case of spiritual affairs. It is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, quote, the supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. That's from the Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 2nd chapter, 6th verse. We have got so many books, so if we go on preaching from them for the next 1,000 years, there is enough stock. So the GBC should make sure that there's enough stock for 1,000 years. I don't know if they've done this, but this is Prabhupada's order, and it's the duty of the GBC to complete the order. Where are the 1,000 years of stock of books? I want to know. Where are they? Everybody wants to know. Letter to Satsvarup, June 1972. And if you think you have no time, you are not so good scholar, you cannot read all these books, then chant Hare Krishna. Either way you will become perfect. Either both or at least one. If you cannot read books, you chant Hare Krishna. You will be perfect. And if you read books and chant Hare Krishna, that is also very good. But there is no loss. If you chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but you cannot read books, there is no harm. There is no loss. That chanting is sufficient. But if you read, then you will be able to defend yourself from the opposing parties. That will help you for preaching work, because in the preaching work you have to answer so many questions. You have to meet so many opposing elements. So if you are strong in your position by reading books, Vedic literature, then you become very, very favorite to Krishna. Oh, very, very favorite. Not favorite, but very, very favorite to Krishna. That's a arrival lecture, July 15th, 1975 in San Francisco. Then these are short quotes about books. One should read the books of the previous acharyas. Translating is not difficult. Yes, to read the previous acharyas, but Prabhupada said one should read, but he didn't say translate. That means you have to learn Sanskrit or Bengali. I know some people are translating, but Prabhupada never authorized anyone to translate Shastra. I looked it up in the Veda base. No one was authorized. In fact, it's the opposite. When somebody wanted to write a book, he said, no, better you read my books or write articles for Back to Godhead. But no one was authorized to write books. Somebody has used this quote to write a book on Krishna's Rasa Leela. He was never authorized to do that, this person. And he uses this quote why he translated the book. But Prabhupada doesn't use the word translate. He says read. That means you go and read the Sanskrit. You go learn Sanskrit. He doesn't say translate. Who authorized you to translate? It says in Chaitanya Chaitamrita, in order to translate, you have to have the authority from the Madan Mohan deity. As Krishna Das Kaviraj stated, he got permission from the Madan Mohan deity. Did you get the Madan Mohan deity permission to write your books on Rasa Leela? Who authorized you to even write on Rasa Leela? That is my question. Nobody. Translating is not difficult, but more importantly, it's a question of realization. You see? Prabhupada was referring this to translating his books, not for translating new books. Don't take things out of context. He never said to translate other books. That's in the appointment tapes of the GBC, in the appointment tapes. I think it was in May, where he clearly says nobody is authorized or has the realization to translate books. This refers to translating books in different languages. Prabhupada was talking about that in the appointment tapes, not about translating other books. Yes, you must, it's a question of realization. You must be a Paramhansa to write books. Prabhupada said it. I have a quote. The system is out, whatever the authority has done, even if there's a mistake, it should be accepted. Prabhupada said that. Prabhupada's disciples, who are translators, better a blind uncle than no uncle at all. So although they made mistakes, it's okay. Better a blind uncle than no uncle at all. The son cannot take life during Bhagavatam discussion. So the more you discuss Bhagavatam, you keep your life. So to avoid death, always speak Bhagavatam. Then you won't die. You live forever. So these are all very nice quotes. The books are blessings of Bhaktisiddhanta. Okay? Prabhupada. This is from a lecture, Arrival. This is the blessing of my Guru Maharaj. He wanted it. And because we are trying to do this, he is giving us all blessings. He told me personally, I wanted to sell the marble and publish some books. Calcutta, that Gaudiya Math is also marble floor. Now he said that since this temple has been given by Mr. Datta, our men are fighting which room I shall occupy. This is the nature of a materialist, to fight over property. In India, 95% of the murders are over property. They want to possess property without knowing everything belongs to God. We are born naked and we die naked. We have nothing when we come and we cannot take anything when we leave. So what is the use of fighting? Which room I shall occupy? Who cares? You're going to die anyway. So I know there will be blazing fire here. So before that, I wanted to get out this marble and sell it and turn it into some books. He told me like that. So I noted that down, that he wants books. So I tried to do that. That's all. See, Prabhupada, very sincere. Next quote. Oh, he wanted one devotee to copy his books by hand. He said, you have nothing to do. You copy my books by hand. And why should you publish all rubbish literature? Simply publish Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, that's all. What is the use of this newspaper, nonsense newspaper? Huge, huge quantity. So everything will be nice provided you become ideal. Live in community, produce your own food. Even you can produce your own paper. You don't require printing of so many books. If there is one book, others can imitate or copy. There is no need of printing. Formerly, they used to do that. Prabhupada, one book. Suppose we have prepared some small quantity of paper. So if you want that book, you just copy another book. And Bhagavan says, by hand? He was the president in Paris and GBC. Prabhupada said, yes, there's no need of printing books. And Bhagavan said, but some people would be engaged in copying books. Prabhupada said, no, you engage yourself. Just see, Prabhupada hit the point. No, why others? You do yourself. You're a big GBC man. Don't be puffed up. You do yourself. If you want book, that book you copy yourself. Why someone should be engaged for you? You copy yourself. Why someone should be engaged for you? You have got enough time. You're not going to the factory or 100 miles for your earning livelihood. You are on the local space. You have got time enough. You just take, copy, that's all. Minimize your unnecessary waste of time. Save time. Chant Hare Krishna. Go back to home. This is our idea. Instead of chanting 25 rounds, you chant 100 rounds. That is utilization of proper time. Instead of begetting cats and dogs, you just beget one child, Krishna conscious. This is ideal life. What is the use of using sex life unnecessarily? Therefore, only for begetting nice child, one should have sex. That is ideal life. Not that to use sex life contraceptive method. This is all demonism. But they cannot do without it because they have no other engagement. They do not know how Krishna is and how pleasurable it is to reciprocate with Krishna. Therefore, they go to the dog's pleasure, sex life on the street and on the beach. That's all. They have been educated by like dogs. This is on a morning walk in Rome, 1974. Prabhupada is strongly preaching. Just see how strong he was.
Is it the same conversation with Bhagavan?
Yeah. Yes, the same thing. Diacritic marks must be used. There was an argument about diacritic marks between in the early days, 1966. Actually, there was a group of people in ISKCON in 1966 that were against Sanskrit. That Prabhupada should not use Sanskrit in his books because it's a foreign language and people will not adopt to Krishna conscious. The people who were against this were the Christians who had a clique in our movement. I won't name their names, but they wanted to Christianize the Hare Krishna movement. And practically they did so in the 1990s. They Christianized New Vrindavan, where everybody was a Christian and had Christian names. And no Sanskrit was allowed. So Prabhupada, he said, me and Brahmananda and the others, we said, no, there must be Sanskrit because the scholars will accept our books as not as a cult, but as a true religion. Because Sanskrit is the mother of all languages, even of Latin. Latin comes from Sanskrit. Christos comes from Krishna. Christos is a Latin word, and it comes from the word Krishna. So that's proof Latin comes from Sanskrit. It's the mother of all languages, so why not use it? It's authorized, and it proves that our religion is the oldest religion in the world. This is proof. In reply to Jayadoita's questions, henceforward the policy for using diacritic markings is that I want them used everywhere. On large books, small books, and also BTG. If there is any difficulty with the pronunciation, then after the correct diacritic spelling, in brackets the words pronounced as. That's I criticize your your who is crazy. You used diacritics, but you didn't explain how to pronounce it.
Okay.
You have to change that. I noticed right away. You put the diacritics, but who can read a diacritic? You have to put the explanation,
Yes.
how to read. Then it's good. Otherwise, it's useless. People can't pronounce it.
Yes, that's true.
So Prabhupada says it here, the brackets pronounced as may be written. So even on the covers, the diacritic markers should be used. We should not have to reduce our standard on account of the ignorant masses. Diacritic spelling is accepted internationally, and no learned person will even care to read our books unless the system is maintained. This was a letter to Jayadoita's questions to the BBT. My dear Jayadoita, please accept my blessing. I have seen on the new books printed that on the spine of the jacket the words Bhaktivedanta Book Trust have been omitted. Formerly, they were there on all the books. It is understood from Rameshwar that you removed these words. Why did you do this? So even from the very beginning, Jayadvaita wanted to change Prabhupada's books. This is written in 1974. So from the very beginning, Jayadvaita wanted to change. It's right here. This is a NB. It was a letter to Kurandar, and it said NB means note back. And Prabhupada wrote a short note, and this is the note. Why did you remove the BBT on the spine? Who authorized? Who authorized? Why did you do this? So he was always interested in changing. We can see it here. That's his tendency to change. Prabhupada gave the ideas for the art paintings in the books. Actually, I call it Srila Prabhupada's art. Although Prabhupada did not formally paint the art, he used the hands of his devotees, because nobody knew how to paint a picture of Krishna or Lord Chaitanya. Nobody knew how to do it, how to make the Leela. Prabhupada taught them how to do it through letters, through conversations. So many letters, so many conversations you'll find. Therefore, he is the author of those paintings, not the artists themselves. They were simply a vehicle to make those paintings by the pure devotee. He used their hands, because we are all puppets to be used by Srila Prabhupada to spread Krishna consciousness. He is doing everything through us. We never take credit for anything. Prabhupada gets all the credit, because that is the fact. We have no knowledge, we have no criteria to do anything, because we're malechas, chandalas. All we can take credit for is to follow the footsteps of the pure devotee. That's all the credit we can take, is to follow. Not to imitate, but to follow. So, what did Prabhupada say? You may inform Jodharani that the picture she sent is all right, with necessary adjustments. See, Prabhupada made adjustments. They would send pencil drawings to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada would make the adjustments.
Like a sketch.
Yes. They would send a sketch, and then he would make the adjustment. Krishna, of course, to be pictured in the same dress in all the scenes of the Kurukshetra delivery of Bhagavad Gita, because the episode took place all within a 1/2 hour. The whole thing. Some ideas are, he's giving ideas. Duryodhana and Dronacharya conferring in a tent before the battle. A ratha with 4 horses drawn before the ranks of soldiers, and the Akshomihini carrying Krishna and Arjuna. This is the army. They were called Akshohini. Number 3, Arjuna morose, leaving weapons aside. He's almost crying. If you go through the Bhagavad Gita, you'll see those paintings are there. So Prabhupada is the artist. It's right here in black and white. They just use their hands, but Prabhupada is telling them how to do it. A man pictured dead and also living. Krishna says to Arjuna, the wise mourn not for the dead or the living. Pictures of an individual from boyhood to youthhood, and manhood and in old age and death. The figure of the soul in each and different body remains the same, indicating that the body changes, not the soul. So here Prabhupada gave all the ideas in letters. The sketch of Hiranyakashipu. Anyway, it goes on. There should be no effulgence around Prahlad. Hiranyakashipu should not be shown with a pipe. He was a non-smoker. How did Prabhupada know Hiranyakashipu didn't smoke? Answer that question, you. in computer land. How does Prabhupada know?
He had a television.
No, because he's the representative of Krishna, so he knows everything about everybody. That's how he knows. He says he's a non-smoker. This person existed thousands of years ago. How does Prabhupada know that? Because he's a representative of Krishna. To illustrate Prahlad being protected when he's thrown off the cliff, there should be a semi-visible Krishna waiting below as if to catch him. Yes, you can show dead bones, skulls, and snakes in the dungeon. Prahlad was not actually attacked with the tridents, just threatened. You see? Then, a negative reaction. No, the printing of the Gita Gyan cover in this fashion is not at all approved by me. You have done most nonsensically. Why change the cover? When people look to see the Bhagavad Gita, they expect to see Krishna and Arjuna, not the picture of Krishna with a cow. You have done a great mistake. Not a mistake, a great mistake by changing the front picture, and it will hamper the sale. In future, you don't do any changes without asking me first. See, everybody wants to change Prabhupada's teachings. Everybody. Simply because there's no stock of books, we can do anything whimsically? Is this logic? Gita is not spoken in Vrindavan. It is spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But this is Vrindavan picture. That chariot driven by 4 horses, that is the real Kurukshetra. It is not that because there's no stock we can whimsically, as we like, lose the idea. That is rasabasa. Because there's no bread, you take stone to eat. There's no stock of bread, so you will take stone. You see how angry Prabhupada is. You see? We were expert at changing everything. The front picture is the most important thing, and you have changed it. It must remain standard and not change. Also, the lettering is not nice on the cover. You should have taken a color picture of Krishna Arjuna and used it black and white, one color, on the front cover, just as you did with the inside back cover of the Bhagavad Darshan. The original picture of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in color, but you have printed it in black and white. You could have done this on the front cover with Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, but the cover must not be changed. Concerning Bhagavad Darshan cover, the Hindi on the back is not good. Who is translating this? See, Prabhupada had trouble with translating. I can testify. Prabhupada issued to scholars to give him a translation of some of his books to 12 different scholars who offered to translate for Prabhupada. They were Hindi scholars and English. They could translate into English. Not one of them passed Prabhupada's test. There's only one who passed Prabhupada's test, and he was authorized to translate Bhagavad Darshan. And his name is Ramananda Roy. He was a professor of chemistry at Gorakhpur University. Very nice, humble man. I met him. And he was the only one, because he was a devotee, not a scholar. And he was the only one that Prabhupada accepted for translating Hindi. And it's very noteworthy, because Lord Chaitanya had 2 personal devotees who he discussed with. And who are those? Sarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy. And who did Prabhupada have? Sarup Damodar Maharaj and Ramananda Roy. The same Leela is repeated. History repeats itself. What happened in Lord Chaitanya 500 years ago Happened 500 years later with Prabhupada. So, therefore, this proves that Prabhupada is the expansion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the proof. Because the Leela is the same. Even the names are the same. Sri Damodar was very confidential. Why? Because Prabhupada authorized him to write science books. He was the only one authorized to write a book, science book. And he never took royalty. Right now, all of our people writing books, they're all keeping the royalties for themselves. Sri Damodar didn't. The entire royalty went to Prabhupada. Similarly, any book written by Prabhupada's mercy, all the royalty should be given to BBT, as instructed by Srila Prabhupada. If you say you're a Prabhupada follower, you got to follow the instruction and give the money. Nobody should keep the money. It should be given to BBT. Then also the address on the back of our Vrindavan temple is not correctly spelled. It has been spelled Chatakara Road, but it should be called Chatikara Road. Who was proofreading? This is in a letter. This was an unedited letter, so I don't have the names. That doesn't matter, but you can see how Prabhupada was very frustrated and angry at the changes. The pictures are all wonderful. The artists tease me with so many questions about this and that, but they have done nicely. You see, the artists wanted to get it nice, so they used to tease Prabhupada. But Prabhupada was happy with that teasing because the artwork came out very nice. So it is all right. Letter to Rameshwar, 1975. So I think I'll stop there for today's class. So Hari Bol, we'll have more future classes on different topics. And we'll also have questions and answers. I know I can't see your answers, but your brain can think about the answers. And then I'll tell you what Prabhupada, how he answered the questions. And you can note it down. So if someone asks you that question, you can answer in the parampara way and not in your personal way. Hari Bol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hari Bol.